More Vietnamese charged. Million Bay government signs MOA with climate change. UPNG students told to vacate campus by next week.
This is NBC Papua New Guinea National News.
Good evening, I'm Jerry Tavern. The captain of a Vietnamese vessel caught illegally fishing in Million Bay waters last month has been fined a total 103,000 kina. In default, a 2-year prison term with hard labor awaits him. His 15 other crew members were also heavily fined. The minor among them was tried separately for the same in juvenile court, where last Friday, Magistrate John Calmi handed down the sentence. Here's Priscilla Waikari with more details from Alatau.
Captain Dean Van Tam was slapped with 20,000 kina for each of the 4 counts of charges laid against him under the Fisheries Management Act and a further 23,000 kina for breaching immigration laws. They included illegally fishing for sea cucumbers, currently a prohibited fishery under PNG laws, having in his possession 25 200-litre containers of harvested sea cucumbers on board his vessel, causing 14 others to harvest sea cucumbers without a valid fishery license, and engaging in a fishery-related activity without a permitted license. He was further fined 23,000 kina under immigration laws, totaling 103,000 kina in fines. If not paid, he faces 2 years in prison with hard labor. His 14 crew members, minus the minor under the age of 16, were each and severally fined 10,000 kina for breaching fishery management laws and a further 3,000 kina under immigration laws, totaling 13,000 kina each. In default, 16 months hard labor in prison. The minor, in the meantime, was tried in juvenile court, where Magistrate John Calmi fined him 5,000 kina under the fisheries management laws and 3,000 kina under immigration laws, lending him a total 8,000 in default. He spends 12 months in prison with hard labor. The vessel was hauled into Alotau on June 21, caught illegally fishing off the coast of Warre Island in Milne Bay, where the court was told 6 other similar Vietnamese vessels were also spotted, but unfortunately got away. The 16 Vietnamese men join 11 others already serving time at Alotau's Gili Gili jail, who in May this year were fined a total 280,000 kina for similar offences. Priscilla Waikari, NBC National News, Alotau.
The Million Bay administration this week signed a crucial memorandum of agreement with the Climate Change and Development Authority for the go-ahead to implement a food and water security program in 2 vulnerable communities in the province. It's under the Coping with Climate Change in the Pacific Island Region program by the Pacific Community and German Agency for International Cooperation. Again, Priscilla Waikari with more from Alatau.
The 2 highly vulnerable communities identified in Milne Bay under this program include Wamira's 400-year-old Taro irrigation system in the Alotau district and water security projects, as well as identified appropriate crops for atoll communities on Munuwata and Kuyawa Islands in the Trobriands. Scoping exercises began at the start of this year, and this Tuesday, the go-ahead sealed with the signing of a memorandum of agreement between the Milne Bay Provincial Government and the Climate Change and Development Authority.
The 2 communities, Wamira and Kirawina, will benefit highly on this support, which will incorporate capacity building activities that promotes the preservation and application of traditional and local knowledge and practices relevant to conservation and stable use of biodiversity implementation. It will complementing it with new ideas and technology on how to be resilient to the impact of climate change.
On behalf of the provincial government, agree to it. The challenge we will have here is to effectively, properly coordinate this project. And I can assure you that we will put in place the coordination mechanism so that this project does not fail.
The implementing agency, the German Agency for International Cooperation, and their regional partner, Pacific Community, say The project implementation approach will also include intensive awareness raising on climate change issues and training on appropriate technologies and planning. They say it's more crucial now than ever before, thus the Coping with Climate Change in the Pacific Island Region program.
That our Earth is warming, and the only thing we can do now is to prepare our local communities on how to cope with this.
She says studies have shown since December of last year, monthly temperatures have increased by 1% since the last temperature spikes recorded in the 1880s, and in May of last year, scientists' studies show the southern pole for the very first time in a million years has touched on the 400 parts per million of carbon dioxide gas last recorded before the Ice Age. The MOA kicks in after the signing this week, where a team revisits Wamira next week and the Trobrians the week after for more groundwork into establishing the foundations of these projects. Priscilla Waikaidi, NBC National News, Alotau.
Remaining students at the University of Papua New Guinea must vacate the campus by next week. Acting Chancellor Dr. Nicholas Mann made this clear today after the 2016 academic year was terminated. Esther Bralinwani reports.
In a phone call today, UPNG Acting Chancellor Dr. Nicholas Mann told NBC National News that remaining students will have to vacate both Waigani and Tauroma campus by mid-next week. Dr. Mann says the decision to terminate the academic year was made on Tuesday, so they are expected to leave after 1 week. He says they should follow the normal procedures as all services will be ceased by then. However, some students are appealing to return to classes and complete the year. Esther Bralinwani, NBC National News, Port Moresby.
Not all students have been involved in the boycotting and protest. However, the decision to terminate the 2016 academic year has not gone down well with some students. But some students have argued otherwise, that the decision was in the best interest of both the University of Papua New Guinea management and the students. Again, Esther Bralinwani reports.
After 25 years, and the University of Papua New Guinea have terminated the academic year, leaving students with nothing but confusion. Such termination occurred in 1991. The decision did not go down well with some students, as they were not prepared for such a decision. For those innocent students who were not involved, it was a sad day for them.
The students were not part of this, so they need to consider those students and please give us a chance to complete our education.
However, TSCF student leader Clement Kemo said it is a win-win decision for both the UPNG management and the students.
Through the statement, it said they have consulted a wider range of partners, including the government and also the students themselves, including the teaching staff. So they themselves know and weigh the decision, because at the end of the day, they work for the better of the students, including the academic staff. The students, we must not be selfish, because taking into consideration the academic staffs also, which may possess, can put in some like great risk to students. If we decided to continue on that might create another problem worse than what we experienced.
He says this decision is a relief after being in suspense for too long.
It's a relief so that we can go home and just leave this year past, and we all come back in one piece next year. But once again, thanks very much for the council. We have been kept in suspense for too long, and I think that this decision will at least give us some wake-up call to consider the next course of action individually.
Esther Bralinwani, NBC National News, Port Moresby.
More funds will be allocated by the national government to target sectors in the Millennium Development Goals. Among goals being pursued by the government is better health and education services and poverty reduction. The Department of National Planning is spearheading this drive, and last night it launched the MSG Reports and Budget Framework. Raymond Guinea reports.
This documentary shows the development revolution that took place in PNG since independence.
In 2015, Papua New Guinea celebrated its 40th independence, a significant milestone in our growth as the largest democratic state in the Pacific region.
PNG is a member to the United Nations and has to maintain its membership by meeting 8 Millennium Development Goals or MSGs annually.
We have the largest population and the lowest population density.
Amongst the goals is reduction in poverty and better health and education services for its people.
If we don't stabilize our population now.
On Thursday night was the launch of the MSG reports and budget framework. This also coincided with the rollout of the campaign. The reports were aligned with the National Planning Act, which will help the national government to plan and target sectors that need more funding for improvement.
National Planning Act has frameworks within that. One of them is the budget and planning framework, the budget framework, and that basically shows us how we allocate resources to the priorities of government, also taking into account the international obligations that we have.
Having that PNG has done away with poverty, job opportunities and social problems still concerns the government. Also, National Planning Department is targeting the Sustainable Development Goals to spearhead the MSGs. Meantime, critical activity metrics was established to assess the performance of these sectors. Raymond Guineo, NBC National News, Port Moresby.
Thousands of people are rallying across the United States calling for unity and justice. Civil rights groups are marching in at least 8 cities, including Atlanta. They condemn the killing of 5 police officers in Dallas on Thursday. They're calling for a peaceful change. But many remain angry at the killing of 2 black men by police this week in Louisiana and Minnesota.
It's raining here in New York City, but that hasn't stopped all of these protesters from taking to the streets here in Harlem, a predominantly African-American part of the city. They're chanting, "No justice, no peace." They say that the killing of the 2 African-American young men in Louisiana and Minnesota is unjust, and they say they want justice, but they're also saying that they're against the violence as well that took the life of 5 police officers in Texas.
We do not support the murder of police. This movement is not a violent movement. It is not anti-white and it is not anti-police.
This is important to the East Harlem community. This is important to the world. This is important to the country.
We hurt. We're hurt. I was at work hurt. I had to come in and show everybody what was going on out here.
The recent violence has clearly torn a nation now more than ever divided between race and law enforcement. Everybody here saying they want their voices heard to stop the violence against young black men and violence against the police as well.
And we now join Evelyn with the weather preview.
Thank you, Jerry. Good evening. The weather in brief. All regional centers to expect isolated showers. For the Highlands region, scattered morning fog will follow. Light moderate southeasterly winds is also continuing throughout the country. I've got all the weather details coming up later in the news. It's back to you, Jerry.
Thank you, Evelyn. Coming up next, Law Reform Commission taking the responsibility of educating people around the country on matters relating to the Constitution, and Government Department warn not to review their laws without consulting the Law Reform Commission. Stay with us on NBC National News.